Like this is going to be a bit of an insert into my video, folks, so that I can show how I'm doing the treadle wheel for my Joseph Moxon lathe. You can probably just see in the background over here my old treadle lathe. What I want to do is make sure that I've got the centre absolutely dead centred. Now this is supposed to be a 2.5 foot wheel. The board that I've got is slightly bigger than a 2.5 foot wheel. You can probably make out there are 3 pieces in here actually, so there's a little bit of a jagged edge on there, so it's a bit difficult to get, you know, the exact right angle along there. I don't know if you can notice that. You see a little bit sticking out of there, so it's not exactly square. These sides are. This is pretty good. Each of these pieces that's glued together is pretty square, so it's never going to be quite perfect, I'm afraid, but I did want to find the nearest I could to the dead centre. Anyway, I've done an overkill. I've measured it as many ways as I possibly can. You see these marks on here, they'll show exactly how I've measured each part. So this one's a measure from here across to there at 15 inches. And this one 15 inches as well, because that's my 2.5 foot, my 30. You can see it doesn't quite get all the way there because I've got space on the edge here. So I've created a bit of a square in the centre here. I've taken it from this side and from this side as well. You can see the lines don't quite match, but they're not too far out, are they really? So I can tell that these are coming from here and these from here, and there's my square. So when I took a straight edge and went from corner to corner, I was expecting it to go exactly from corner to corner from those squares. It didn't quite, ever so slightly out. Not an issue for me. What I did was I put my little nail in there, into the exact place I thought it was first. Not quite right, judged it back again, pulled it back a bit, but as you can see, I've got all this to play. All I need to do really is get a circle out of this. So there's no point in being fussy about it. Just bang the nail in there, a little bit of the way. I'm lucky because I run a lathe, so it's easy for me to be able to create one of these. So that's a nice straight flat edge for me. Drill a hole, stick my pencil into there, and the reason why I've done that is I didn't want to do it by hand. I didn't want my pencil wobbling around. Also, I didn't want there to be any inconsistency here with the length of the string, so I'll put a little bit of a hook through there. You can put anything you like around there, but I didn't want to tie it round because, as you know, if you go like that, the string's going to get shorter. I know I'm exaggerating it, but I thought if I do it this way, then I should be able to get a nice circle on there. So this fits pretty well, and it's just fits tight enough so that I can shove it down a little bit if it's necessary. So that should give me my circle that I need. So if I keep that just nice around there, you know, just nice and straight to the edge there. I should have cut that little bit off there, shouldn't I? But I don't need to really. Take that around there. You can see how I can just about get my circle out of there. It's a little bit tight that. I might need to just pull that in just a little bit and make a slightly and ever so slightly. Whoops, can you see how that's going there? Can you see the difference there? Now that's the difference when you get this slightly wrong. So it's really important, I'm teaching myself here at the same time, to sort of put your thumb there so that you've got it straight like that the whole way round. You probably see for yourself how that now is starting to not scribe anymore. So let's get that back on there in place, in there. Why I didn't cut off that little bit of extra string, I really don't know. I have to keep pushing the pencil down because unfortunately the pencil, of course, will sort of wear down, and you only want it to stick out just a little bit so you've got it nice and square to the bottom of there. That's the thing. I've got it on a nail. It's a very small nail, and it's a smooth nail as well. It's not a rusted nail. I was tempted to use one of my old rusty nails. I thought, what's the point? I don't need anything else. But then I decided, no, I want it nice and smooth so it'll rotate nicely around there. So this is just me making this circle for my, whoops, hang on a minute. My circle for my wheel. Take that all the way around there, and then I'll get this one cut off, and then you can see how it all works. Now if I take that around here, I'm doing this wheel to the absolute maximum that I can get it. All the way around there. I can just get it in there. Just get it in there. I'm going to shave off a little bit of this wheel, of course, so I am getting the absolute maximum I can get out of this wheel. So you can see, can't you, the piece of wood that's been done. It's just catching the edges there, just on those edges there, and it's not quite reaching on the edge here. So that shows that the board isn't quite as square as the chap who gave me the board in the first place reckoned it was. So let me just deepen that mark a little bit so I know which is the main one. It's the outside one on there, isn't it? That's the one that I need to be following rather than the one where it started to turn ever so slightly. Now, one thing I'm not worried about is how exactly circular this wheel is. This is just getting the rough off here, because what I'm going to do is put this on its axle And then you're going to be able to see, well, I'm going to be able to turn the wheel properly. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you with regard to the wheel is what's going to go in the centre, and that's the axle. This piece of wood that you can see here, am I showing you the right bit? Well, I don't know if you can see the thickness of this around here, but if you look at, yeah, just up there, see that thickness there? That thickness is the same as this thickness here. Yeah. So this is the piece of wood that it's sandwiched, which is going to be the wheel. So the idea is going to be to drill a hole through the middle of there, using the nail point, but also using a piece of wood. So this piece of wood here has the axle hole already drilled through it, positioning that over that area there, using this to create my square for this to fit into place, which should be fine, so that I can then drill a hole directly through there. I might show that, I don't know yet. I don't think it's going to be that complicated, so maybe it's not worthwhile. Anyway, the point is that here is my axle. It's a crook axle. Whoops, let me just make sure that that's in the picture. This is a mistake that I've been making. It's the second time I've had to do this part of the video because I tend to get it off the video. So we've got about a ½ inch through the middle of here. This is the axle. These are probably about 7/16. You know, the bolts going through here, perhaps even a little bit less. The bushes are certainly, I think the bushes are 7/16 actually, and this is ½ inch. But these are significantly less. I don't know what these are. Probably about ¼ inch or something like that. Actually, now I think about it. But anyway, the point is, this is brilliantly done. Not by me, I hasten to add, otherwise that would be showing off, wouldn't it? And us English are not very good at that, not normally anyway. But if you look down here, you'll see that there's a pin just going through there. I hope you can see that clearly. I might even take it a little bit closer to the camera. I'm not sure if you can see that. I hope you can. There's a pin going through there. Well, if I turn this round, you be able to see, oopsie daisy, you ought to be able to see that there's a pin on the other side there as well. So, okay, let's put that back on the board so we can see. In fact, one piece has already come removed, so I can explain that piece, can't I? There are two bearing plates. I'm not sure if you can see these very well, but I'll see what I can manage. Here's one. You see the shape here, can't you? These are the places where the cheeks of the lathe fit through. I've got two of these, so there'll be one on one side underneath the lathe, and then the other one will be over this side here. This is this one that you can see over here. So what we're going to get is these two pieces here together, and then going between these two pieces we'll have the axle. Now you should see that if I hold this piece, you might just be able to see that the length on there is just about spot on. So what happens is this goes through the plate much further down here in the middle of that plate, and then passes through to the other side. So you can then see, if I can just shift those out of the way a moment, you should then be able to see that this will go through the piece of wood, that this here, this wing nut here, will lock onto the bush. Notice these attractive wing nuts he's made for me here as well. Brilliant job he's done for me. Excellent chap, this engineer. He's a retired engineer, and he's put a real effort in for me here. This is just basically two metal bars, flat bars, and what he's done is he's drilled the hole and then tapped it for me, and then simply banged out the ends like that, giving them a little bit of shape. Very good. I mean, you can put a bar through here to tighten it up, as well as tightening it by hand. Brilliant way. You don't need to fiddle about with spanners and stuff. They knew their business in the 17th century, and they're certainly teaching me lessons as well at the same time. Anyway, if I tighten this, you might notice, if you can or not, that this here goes further in and out. In other words, what it does is it helps connect into there. In there, actually the other end will demonstrate it more easily, I think, but in there you'll find there's a fitting that corresponds absolutely perfectly with this fitting here. So this tightens onto there. This will be on the side of the wood, of course, on the inside of the wood. The bush is the right length, so this tightens onto the bush like that, so that is then locked in place. This then protrudes through the other side. Yeah, that won't come undone, of course, and even if it does, you can lock it again afterwards. Yeah, to lock properly into there. Yeah, so all clever stuff. Now, if there's a bit of a gap in there, this can be taken up by tightening this here as well. So it's an adjuster. I did wonder why the original in the 17th century, Joseph Moxon treatises, had two wing nuts on there. Well, this chap has obviously discovered exactly why that is the case. Anyhow, other than that, at the other end you can see the very same thing. This fits into what you call the bearing plate, the leg, yeah, of, you know, that I should, whoops, sorry, see if I can get that into the camera there. So that's a bearing plate, and I hope you can see on there where this pin, if you like, fits into there. Well, of course, the other thing that you can realise once you've worked all of this out is that there's an O on there and there's an O on there. It means the outside of the plate, I don't know where it is on this side, but it's there, so there it is, an O on there. Then there's an A on one side and a B on the other side. Just said that, yeah, that's the B on there. There's an A on there. That tells us that this is the side that this part of the axle goes in, and that's the side that this part of the axle goes in. The whole thing comes apart, of course, by unscrewing the bolts. So that all needs to be fitted into here, of course, and oiled up or greased up accordingly in there, and then it will spin all rather nicely. Now, I can't really show a spinning on here because it's a bit, I think you probably get the idea anyway, but you'll see that that will actually spin on there. It doesn't spin like that, of course. This is rotated by the well, I forget what he calls it now, just like a leather strap. I think he even describes it as a kind of shoe. But you see how the whole thing is going to work and how the whole thing comes together. The engineer's done an absolutely fantastic job of recreating the actual 17th century axle that you can see in Joseph Moxon's diagrams there. So anyway, thanks for watching. My next job is going to be to cut these off. I'll put some piece of wood on here so that I can cut level all the way down. But like I said, it's not too much of an issue for me because I'm going to be putting this on this axle here, putting something against it, a piece of wood like this, so it turns with that piece of wood in front. In other words, I'm going to have a rest, like a tool rest. I'll put my chisel on that, and while this is turning here, then I'll be chiselling away at the edge of this. So I'll end up with a round piece anyway, and with a groove inside. So it's not imperative that the sawing is right. It just makes it a little bit easier when I start to do my, you know, when I start to do my chiselling, really, when I start to do my turning on it. So that's the stage that we're at here now at the moment. I'm hoping that sometime tomorrow I'll have all of this complete, so I'll have this through the centre here, all my bolts in place, and then I can fit this, because I already have my what they call bearing plates made. Drill the holes through here, set that up on my lathe so that I've got the you know, so I've got the whole thing working properly under the cheeks of the lathe, so I can start using my my Joseph Moxon lathe as opposed to my slightly out of picture here at the moment, but my 1730s or just after 1730s maybe treadle lathe, my iron wheel treadle lathe there. So I'm going to be putting this one up for sale actually, because I need this room in here, and I'd rather be working on my actual 17th century reproduction lathe rather than an original 18th century lathe, even though it's a beautiful piece and I've loved using it. It's in my way. I haven't got room for more than one treadle lathe really, and I'd rather be using an actual 17th century piece of equipment, or rather a reproduction 17th century piece of equipment. So next we'll move on to fitting the wheel into place.